welcome back to Shakespeare Uncomplicated. Today we are going to be talking about a text that generally comes in your first year and is a part of the Indian classical literature's paper. So the text is Cilapattikaram, written by Ilango Adigal. So in this video, I'm first going to be giving you an introduction to the author, a summary and analysis of the text, and in addition to this, we'll be talking about certain themes which are important in the book, and lastly, I'll give you a little description of the characters. So Cilapattikaram has been written by Ilango Adigal, who was a Jain monk and is also believed to be the brother of the Chera king Sengotuvan. Sengotuvan, very interestingly, is also an important character of our text Cilapattikaram. So Cilapattikaram is basically a Tamil epic which is hailed as one of the most important texts in Indian literature and Sangam literature. The term Cilapattikaram translates to the tale of the anklet. As epics are written in the form of poetry, Cilapattikaram has also been written as an epic poem. It is divided into 3 books. The first is the book of Pukar, the second being the book of Madurai, and the third being the book of Vanchi. So the epic basically revolves around the life of 3 characters, Kovalan, Kannagi and Matavi. So Kannagi and Kovalan get married in the first book, the book of Pukar. They have a very happy married life. Kovalan deserts his wife Kannagi for another woman whose name is Matavi. In their relationship, Kovalan also suspects that Matavi is not faithful to him and hence he deserts her as well and then goes back to Kannagi. Kannagi accepts him with open arms. Kovalan loses his entire wealth and resources during his relationship with Matavi, and after coming home to Kannagi, he decides that he now needs to go to Madurai and earn money. Kannagi, as a good and ideal wife, accepts him and decides to go to Madurai with him. She also gives him her very precious anklet, which symbolizes her wedlock and her marriage, to sell it off and get the money in return. So when Kovalan went to the town and was trying to sell the anklet, he was framed for a crime that he did not commit. Coincidentally, at the same time, the queen of the kingdom and the wife of Sengotuvan had lost her anklet. Somebody had stolen her anklet and the entire town was searching for that culprit. So the person to whom Kovalan was selling Kannagi's anklet to framed him and accused him of a crime that he did not commit. He accused him of having stolen the queen's anklet. After this, justice does not prevail and Kovalan is wrongly executed by the king himself. After this, Kannagi gets to know about the incident and she is filled with wrath and rage. She comes to the kingdom and proves her husband's innocence. So after the execution of Kovalan, Kannagi wrenches off one of her breasts and then throws it on the kingdom. This burns the entire town. Kannagi's rage and anger is believed to be sanctioned by patriarchy because it was a result of her devotion and love for her husband. So after this, the Chera king Sengotuvan basically deifies Kannagi and makes her a goddess of chastity by making an entire temple for her. His main aim behind this is consolidating his empire and gathering more support from the masses. So the entire narrative of Kannagi's wrath and Kovalan's execution is a part of the second book, the book of Madurai, and the narrative of Kannagi's deification is a part of the third book, the book of Vanchi. Moving further, let's talk about some important themes involved in the text. The first has to be Agam and Puram. Agam basically means the interior and the feminine. It basically refers to the realm of the domestic sphere, a realm of love, and a space that is particularly reserved for women. On the other hand, Puram basically means the exterior and the masculine. It is a realm of war, politics, and death, and that is a space reserved particularly for men in the stereotypical notions of our society. So Cilapattikaram as a text brings these two together, and it shows a movement from the Agam space to the Puram space when the couple moves from their home and a space of love to Madurai, which is a space of politics and war. The second important theme has to be that of transformations. Transformations are evident throughout the text, first in the case of Agamemnon, then in the character of Kovalan. Kovalan showcases a lot of transformations in his character when he marries Kannagi, then when he deserts her and goes to Matavi, then when he deserts Matavi and then comes back to Kannagi. So a lot of transformations are visible over there, and most importantly, transformations are visible in the character of Kannagi. Initially, in the first book, she is a chaste wife, an ideal wife who is reserved to the realm of the domestic. She does not have a voice, she does not have an agency of her own. Then, in the second book, she becomes a mythical destructive force and she unleashes her anger and wrath. Then, in the third book, she becomes a goddess and she is deified. So, the third and most important theme is that of chastity and femininity. Cilapattikaram pushes forward many stereotypical notions about a good woman and an ideal wife, and in fact the text criticizes and questions these notions that are prevalent in our society. So an ideal wife according to the text is Kannagi, who is a woman with no agency and an attractive body. She is shy, coy, she does not voice her opinions, and she stays reserved to the domestic space, and even if her husband is an infidel and leaves her, deserts her for another woman, she welcomes him back into her life with open arms and accepts him no matter what, just because he is her husband. So the text very well represents the patriarchal, misogynistic and stereotypical gender roles that are prevalent in our society. Along with these, the notion of chastity forms the core of the text. Chastity basically means a restriction of all impulses that are perceived to be immodest and immoral by the stereotypical patriarchal society. Also, the concept of deification of Kannagi and the deification of a woman who is an ideal chaste wife is very problematic because it pushes forward the idea that women in a patriarchal society can either be reserved to the domestic sphere or can be goddesses. So the fourth and the final theme is that of justice. So very evidently in the text we can see how the king fails to deliver justice to his people, and in addition to this, he uses the power of Kannagi, uses the chastity of Kannagi in order to legitimize his own authority. So he institutionalizes Kannagi by making an entire shrine for her in order to consolidate his empire and establish his supremacy. Lastly, let's talk about the three major characters in our epic. The first is Kovalan. So Kovalan, as we of course know, is an infidel of a man who only values his wife for her physical attractiveness and her physical body. Matavi is a woman who is not accepted by patriarchy because she is a woman who takes charge of her own life. She is a woman who is involved in the arts, she is a dancer, and a woman being involved in the arts is looked down upon by the patriarchal society. In sharp contrast to Matavi is Kannagi, who is represented as the good woman and the ideal wife according to stereotypical gender norms. She is an image of how women are supposed to be in an Indian patriarchal society. Being represented as the queen of chastity, Kannagi is a woman who is perfect in all senses. She has no agency, she is totally passive and is self-sacrificial. In addition to this, she showcases a lot of devotion for her husband who is an infidel. Despite the fact that her husband is an infidel, she showcases immense devotion towards him. So when she gets to know about Kovalan's execution, she is totally filled with anger and rage, and this rage is legitimized by patriarchy because the reason of the anger is her devotion towards her husband and her chastity. So after she wrenches off one of her breasts and shoves it off on the kingdom and burns it, she is deified. She becomes a deity, she becomes a goddess, and the human element that is present in Kannagi is taken away from her. So that's it for our video lesson on Cilapattikaram by Ilango Adigal. I really hope that this helped you. So watch this space for more such videos and stay tuned. Bye bye.